Hi, welcome back to the MT and Me, and Happy New Year. So here we are, 2026. Welcome to the new year. Same as the old year. Honestly, doesn't feel much different, at least not so far. But I hope your holidays were great. You got to spend some time with the people who mean the most to you, because that's really what it's all about. And here's hoping for at least some improvement in this new year that we are now starting. Well, we're going to start this new year here on the MT and Me by looking back at the old year. It's time for our annual year in review. So stay tuned for a look back at the past that could well project into the future. Maybe. As 2025 started, I had a motor that wouldn't start. Pearl had developed some starter problems. Maybe you remember in 2024 the whole little incident with the alternator, me wiring it up wrong and smoking a wire and perhaps causing a little bit of damage. Well, after that, the engine wouldn't turn over like she had been before. So I started 2025 investigating the problem of not being able to start. Well, we still don't have a starter that'll start. So, I guess the time has come to drop this one down off of Pearl and see what the problem is. But okay, starter's off. Now, we think it's bad. At least I think it's bad. But I don't know for sure. Doesn't really look bad. But I think what we're going to do is get some jumper cables, come off our battery, and go directly to those terminals and see if it runs. All right, here goes nothing. Well, starter's not bad. And you know what that means. Something else is wrong. So there's a good chance this switch is bad. And there's a real easy way to check that. You take a screwdriver, you touch one and you touch the other, and you see the starter works. So we have a bad ignition switch. And again, that's not the switch on the dashboard. It's this solenoid switch on the firewall under the hood. So now we know what we need to replace. So before I go through the trouble of replacing this relay, it has been brought to my attention by loyal nomies watching that there is one more vital thing I need to check. And that is something called the neutral safety switch. This is what keeps you from starting your vehicle in gear. In order to check that switch, there is a contact on the starter relay that goes to that. It's really just a ground connection. It has to be grounded for the circuit to be complete whenever you actually turn the key in order to energize the relay to start the starter. And as you can hear, we have a ground. That's good. That means that the neutral safety switch is indeed in place and is doing its job. At this point, the relay may or may not be bad. We'd have to jump across it again to see. I think just as a last-ditch effort, maybe we should go inside and try the ignition key and just see if perhaps in the process of working on all this, maybe I had dislodged something and have now put it back into place. Stranger things have happened. Okay. Apparently, we did something and fixed it. I'm not sure what we did. Maybe it had something to do with the neutral switch. Being a communications engineer, working in radio and maintaining a lot of electronic equipment, I can say this has happened to me a lot over the years. I'm trying to fix something, trying to figure out what's wrong with it, and I'll do some stuff and then I'll come back to it, and just on a whim I'll try it and it works. And I'm not really sure why. But as the old saying goes, you don't lick a gift horse in the mouth. So, yeah, I'll take it. Pearl's engine turns over again. And take it I did. And Pearl's been starting ever since. No more problems with the starter throughout the year. The next thing we embarked upon was a fuel line issue. Pearl's solid fuel connection between the fuel pump and the carburetor had long since been severed. So we were faced with the issue of how to get gas from the fuel pump up to the carburetor. This is Pearl's old fuel line. This end originally attached to the fuel pump, and this end originally attached to the carburetor. But as I told you a couple of days ago, it got cut. You can see someone took a pair of snippers to it when they were stealing the carburetor off Pearl. So basically, this tube is junk at this point because too much of it has been cut off to reuse it. I need to replace it. And my question today is going to be how to best do that. Despite my vigilant searches, no one seems to manufacture an actual 5/16" steel fuel line to run from the fuel pump to the carburetor on the 70 series Dodge 360 engine. If it's out there, I can't find one. So here's the plan, and here's what I've actually done. I have ordered a couple of these in the right size. Remember this? I haven't sent it back yet for credit, but this is the wrong size. I got something too big for my fittings. This is 3/8" hose and 3/8" fittings, but I need 5/16. And the hose, the fittings, and everything else. But I did find these in the proper size, so I got two of them. One of them will go on the fuel pump. The other one will go on the back of the carburetor. And in between them, I also ordered 3 feet of 5/16" rubber-treated vinyl gas line. Yeah, two little 90-degree fittings. Now the question's going to be, get one of these opened up here. Is this going to do the trick? Alright. Well, this fit on my fuel pump. I hate to be a naysayer, but looks like this might be too big. And I'll be darned, it is. That is the size they said I needed, but it's not going to work. I'm going to have to just take that broken piece of fuel line that I have and maybe make the rounds of my auto parts dealers and see if I can't find someone that's got the right size fitting on an L shape or even a straight fitting like this. Well, wouldn't you know, they had every size connector and adapter except for this one. Seriously, that's the kind of luck we have here on the MT and Me, right? So, I don't know. But I can tell you one thing. This trip is not wasted because I now know that this is a 1/2 inch 20 thread connector. Those connectors, I hope, are in this box, which apparently was sealed with the toughest tape known to mankind. There we are. Okay. Open one up and see right off the bat if I am correct this time or bound for disappointment once again. Look at that. It fits. This is supposed to be a 5/16 tube, and therefore we need a 5/16 fuel line to connect it. I'm not sure if that's what this is. So let's see if it'll work. And I think the answer is yes. Those of you who've been watching for a while know how long we've been waiting to actually see this construct. Well, it's not tight. It's probably not the final routing of that hose either, but it is hooked up. And having it hooked up was, well, 95% of that problem anyway. We still had some issues of, getting gas to the fuel pump, but we'll cross that bridge a little bit later, okay? Next thing we did on Pearl was find a new air cleaner enclosure. I had one that I had found almost 1.5 years before, but there was a problem. Once I got it fitted on top of the carburetor, which it really didn't want to fit, but I managed to get it there anyway. Finally got the little piece to put it in place, and with an extension got it locked down. But after doing all that, the engine cowling cover for the engine was actually touching the air filter housing, which is not a good thing. It does not need to be any contact there. So I started looking for an air filter housing that actually fit my carburetor. And after long looking, I found one. So we're going to substitute our air cleaners here. First of all, this one is about the same size. It's even the same height as the one that's on there, as far as thickness goes and as far as the diameter goes. So no difference there to speak of. The difference is going to be underneath. Now, you better remember I have to actually take this extension out in order to get this air cleaner off, and I'm sure the same thing will be true in putting the other one on. Okay. See how much larger the hole is in the bottom of this one as opposed to this one? Quite a difference, huh? Let's hope it's a difference that makes a difference. In order to get that one we had on fit, I had to use this. And that's adding almost an inch in elevation. Kind of part of what I'm counting on here with this one, because it will sit right down on top of the carburetor, like that. Right on there. And you know, I might not even need the extension. Look at that. How much of a difference it makes. Didn't even have to put the little extension back on it. This actual fit should also give you a much tighter seal against the top orifice of the carburetor too. So it should work much better in every way possible. This other air cleaner, I'm going to hang on to it, because who knows, one of these days, if I ever do get a Holly style carburetor, then that one's going to go on there because it has the proper size hole for it. But I'm glad I ran across this one. I'm definitely going to keep it, and we're going to give it a shot. It even came with an air cleaner element, as you saw inside it. So we are good to go. All that remains now is getting our gas line hooked up and then getting the fuel system ready to give it a shot. I can't help but be a little amused to add my optimism there. All that remains now is to do this and then do this. Well, we still haven't done any of that yet. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Next up, a look at Pearl's tanks. And our look at the year's work on Pearl continues with a look at replacing her tanks. Now, I'm talking about the water tank, the gray tank, and the black tank here specifically. Okay, those had all been taken out of Pearl during the gutting process in the few months after we got her. But it'd been a while since I'd gone back and looked at them, and I pretty well had decided whenever I went back to rebuild Pearl, I was going to use different tanks and put them in different places. So we went back and looked at the tanks we had and did a little projection as to what we'd rather have. This is Pearl's gray tank. Now, as I said, this was actually situated underneath the vanity in the bathroom. So there was a lavatory above it. It connected here. This went over through the wall and connected underneath the kitchen sink. All right, and there's a hole here in the top where actually a vent pipe was mounted and sealed in. And here on the bottom is the drain that went through the floor. I don't know what capacity this tank is, but it ain't much. I mean, look at it. I think you should have a gray tank at least as big as your fresh water tank, which in Pearl's case is right here. It does not have a capacity on it, but I would guess maybe 20. And here again, this one was installed sitting sideways. It was underneath one of the benches in the dinette. So, there you have it. Fresh water, gray water. It's just, there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, you know? Just a wee bit. So now you're wondering about the black water tank. It was installed immediately underneath the toilet. All kind of one-piece assembly sort of thing. So, here is the shower pan, basically, the floor of the bathroom. You had shower area right here, toilet set right here. Underneath that is the black tank right here. Okay, so it's just sitting immediately underneath the toilet. And here again, it's measured, I don't know, 2 feet by 18 inches by maybe 6 inches deep. Not very big. So, there again, maybe a black tank needs to be bigger. I mentioned a little issue with the shower that puzzles me to this day. As you can see, the shower had a drain in the bottom of it. Okay, that drain was at floor level. The bottom of that shower pan set right on the floor of Pearl. The bottom of the black tank, same level, right on the floor, so that the drain on the black tank went straight through the bottom into the dumping system. All right. So you had a drain coming out of the shower, going down, across, and back up, not into the tank, but actually into the drain of the black tank. It connected to that. Now, my point here is, I don't see any possible way the shower would have or could have, by the laws of physics and fluid dynamics in this universe, drained into this tank. It's simply not possible. What it would do is, if you were docked and you had your sewer system hooked up, the shower would drain. You could leave the valve open for the gray tank, as you normally would if you were at a campsite or something, so that your gray water goes straight through and into the sewer. The shower would work fine then. But if you were camping somewhere out in the boonies, there's no way that shower would have drained unless you opened up the gate and let the shower and the gray tank all just drain out onto the ground or into the nearby creek bed or wherever. And that ain't cool. You don't do that when you're camping out in the wilderness. That's a problem for me, because one of these days when I get out in Pearl, part of my whole goal is to be able to just go anywhere and stop in camp, and that includes taking a shower. So I got to have some place for my shower water to go. It's one of the main reasons I'm looking at putting the gray tank underneath, so that not only will it be not taking up space inside the cabin, but it also will give a place for my shower to drain into. And yes, showers are very important. So I definitely want to be able to do that when the day comes I get to go out and do some traveling in Pearl. Another thing we considered here in the year's work was going back to an issue that we had really uncovered, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I guess. And that was the mysterious electric fuel pump that Pearl had. Our first clue was the switch on the dashboard that said fuel pump. Well, that immediately kind of made me wonder, because Pearl had a mechanical fuel pump on the engine. So why was there a switch for an electric one? A little search finally found a small fuel pump coming out of the tank, just in line with the gas feed going up to the front. Never could figure out exactly what it was, why it was there, or whether it even worked. So we set about solving that mystery earlier this year by taking it off and checking it out. Oh, it came. Look at there. Oh, when it came loose, it came loose. It's free. Now all we have to do is get the other connections off of it, and we can see what's going on with this. I'm theorizing that the purpose of this in that situation is to prime the entire system when it needs it. If you've been sitting for 6 months to a year and have not run that RV, then you need some gas up front before that motor is going to start. But I firmly believe that that's what this was for. This is a primer. This is affectionately and accursedly known as a clicker pump, or a clickety-clack pump. Now that's because of the noise it makes, which is because of the way it works. Will I put another one on there? Well, that remains to be seen. I think at this point, once we get the fuel system cleaned up and ready to go, I'm just going to hook it up direct, because that'll be an easy enough process to do, and see if I can't prime the system myself and get her started. And if everything seems to work okay, then chances are I'm not going to worry about it. Now, if I get it all hooked up and I discover for some reason it seems like she's starving for gasoline, then I may put an inline pump back in line. If I do, I will probably go with what's called a rotary inline pump. It's a step up, technologically speaking. It is much longer lasting. It's just a better quality product, and it accomplishes the same thing. So rather than putting on a clicker and then having to replace it ever so often, you buy one of these rotaries, and chances are you'll only buy one, and it'll do the job for you. So that may be on down the road too. This is another thing I've uncovered in my extensive fuel pump research. I know so much about these things now that I never dreamed I would need to know. Well, I think a philosopher once said, you never can know too much. So anyway, we got the pump off, solved the mystery, and by the way, I didn't show you this, but we did also determine that it did indeed click, just very, very faintly, so I don't know if it's any good or not. But point is, I don't want a clicker pump back on Pearl, so if we do decide to put something else on, it'll be something else. Working on the fuel pump naturally led us to the fuel tank. Now, one of the projects I had really hoped to do in 25, but did not get done, was dropping the fuel tank, getting it completely rinsed out, and getting it reinstalled. Still haven't done that, so it's on the work list for 2026. But I did take a little time to examine the tank, to look at all the connections on it, and also to figure out how much work it was going to be to actually undo those straps and let the tank down so that I could get it off and get it cleaned. Oh yeah, it's coming down. It is coming down. Nice and loose. And with a little time, that nut will come right off of there. But here's the thing. I'm not quite ready to take it completely off right now. Because I'm not prepared to drop the tank. I really need to get a second jack. I've got one, but I think two would be a lot better handling a tank of this size. And I don't know what this thing weighs. Now, it is a plastic tank, so it's not going to be incredibly heavy, but still, it's also a 36-gallon, I think, plastic tank. So it is going to have a little bit of heft to it. So yay! We've really accomplished something here today. Still haven't taken the gas tank off, but now I know it can be done. And without a lot of fuss and muss. I hope I'm not jinxing it by saying that, because we are still not to that point yet. But very soon, we gonna be. Now that I know how to undo those straps, it's just a matter of getting everything else in place, and that old gas tank is gonna be dropping down. And I certainly hope it will be sometime here in 2026. What you've just seen is kind of a brief synopsis of the work that was done on Pearl. Most of the work that was done on Pearl. We did other things too. We worked on the roof some, sealed up some holes, put a new tarp on top. We also looked at the left rear wheel, which has the brakes gutted out. We bought springs. I've still got to get brake pads so that we can rebuild the brake system in that rear wheel. And the brakes still need to be checked on the other three wheels as well. So there you go. Pretty big job right there for 26 as well. Once the fuel tank is dropped and cleaned and put back on, we will hook up the gas line, run some gas through the carburetor, see if we can't bust that engine off and get her running on her own. So it's a lot to look forward to, and I certainly hope that most of it, if not all of it, comes true this year. As always, no guarantees, but we'll see. In addition to working on Pearl, we did a lot of other stuff during the year. If you watched our videos, we did our usual trips to my local rodeo and all the festivals. We had a couple of road trips. We met up with Ree and talked about her putting in her new impulse water heater. Had a whole feature episode about that. And then, of course, we just showed that to you last week on our Christmas episode, too. It's working just fine, and I'm still planning on putting an impulse heater back in Pearl. Probably not this year. I don't think we'll get that far. But it's on the agenda. So, 2025, when I got to looking back, I realized that actually we accomplished more than I kind of felt like I had. Sometimes in working on Pearl like I have to, because I do still work full time, of course, at my job. So I have a limited time in the afternoon and evenings and weekends to do things on Pearl, and plus other aspects of life get in the way. If I had nothing to focus on but her, she'd be up and running, and I'd be taking you camping across the country with me now. Well, that's not the case, but it is still in the future. So, as I move into 2026, my idea is to get done what I can get done as I can do it. I can really hope for no more. And I hope that your new year has its own promise as well, that you find some dreams to make come true, too. Thank you, my Nomies, for watching and supporting me for yet another year here on the MT and Me. Your viewership, your comments, your suggestions all mean so much to me, and I can't thank you enough for them. Keep watching, keep them coming, and I'll try to keep things interesting as we work on getting this girl back on the road. Thanks again. I love you, Nomies. Subscribe if you didn't in 2025. That's a good way to start this year off. Give me a subscription. Give me a thumbs up. Buy me a coffee. Just keep watching, okay? So, now that the holidays are over, I wish you a happy and a productive 2026. All right? I'm Russ. Happy New Year. We'll talk later.